everyone, welcome to the Appian Community YouTube channel. My name is Kate Boniface, Product Evangelist, and I am stoked to be here with you in this lovely December, kind of chilly weather, but hey, I'm cozy on the inside. So today we have an engaging, exciting set of content for you. Today we're going to go over Composer, and as always, we have brought on an expert to answer all of your questions. And so we're going to go over kind of how, use cases, just a bunch of different things that we think you'd be interested in. So I'm not going to waste any time here. Let's bring out Tien, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tien. I'm a senior product manager at Appian. I've been here for 6 years. I actually started out on the customer success side, so I spent a few years directly building applications for our customers. So I know what it's like to be in your shoes. And then more recently, my focus has been on the future of development. So I'm a product manager. As I mentioned, I specialize in how we integrate AI into our developer experience to accelerate planning and development in Appian. And so I have been leading our Composer investments for the last year or so.
I love it. And I can speak personally to say that Tien is a wealth of knowledge. So make sure to ask any and all questions that you have related to what she just said, what she's about to say, what we're going to discuss, what you see. Your curiosity is what we're here for, right? And we want to ensure that you are successful. So let's kick it off, Tien. Why don't we just start off with a very basic introductory, like what is Composer? And let's bring out a visual to kind of help us with this conversation.
Sure. So for anyone that is used to building an enterprise application, you know that a major challenge is making sure that you and the business are aligned. And overcoming initial manual setup, right? There's many times where you might start an application and then throughout development, you and the business find out that that wasn't exactly what they were looking for, and there's a lot of rework. And so that's kind of why we built Composer. It's meant to be your bridge from an idea to an application. It provides you with one collaborative canvas for you and the business to very easily capture and align on your requirements. And we leverage AI throughout this entire process, not only to extract requirements from natural language, including documents, but also laying out your data model, your interfaces, helping you think about your application and your plan. And then once you and the business are aligned on what app you're trying to build, you can move directly into object generation. And that means you get to skip the initial friction around scaffolding your app, those basic objects that you always have to build out, like your data fabric, your sites, and things like that. And so you get a well-structured, secure app foundation in mere minutes.
Nice. It sounds like we can save some time for developers and there's pieces, there's a lot going on. Great. So another question for you then. Why would you say it's unique or different?
Yeah, so there's a lot. AI is incredible. There's a lot of tools coming out that help generate applications, especially using high code. And so many users typically ask me, well, what is the advantage of Appian versus these high code generation tools out there? And while I'll say that while high code assistants accelerate code generation, they also exacerbate technical debt. It also requires you to really know what you're doing
Not
because
vibe coding?
that's what I mean, right? You have to know the language that it's building in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of advantages to using Composer in Appian because one, we don't jump straight to generation of code, thousands of lines of code, right? We use this plan first approach where we extract your requirements, we display it to you in a way that you and your business can easily align very quickly before we even jump into generation of design objects. Two is what you get isn't black box code. You don't have to be a high code developer. You don't have to understand Java to know that the code that the high coding assistance generated for you is like secure, scalable, etc. We build for you modular design objects that can be easily understood, right? And especially on our SAIL language. And so this mitigates the tech debt that you typically get from those other tools. And then you get all these benefits from being on a unified platform, an enterprise grade platform, right? So it's a native capability of the Appian platform. It's not this siloed tool that you use and have to integrate. And so all your generated applications instantly can leverage our full suite of capabilities, including your data fabric, process automation capabilities, AI, RPA for end-to-end orchestration, all on a secure, maintainable platform. So lots of great reasons to choose Appian over, those high code generation tools.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, you're getting me curious a little bit. I do wanna see this, but was there anything else, like, you wanted to talk about in regards to, like, like, yeah, the benefits or pain points, anything in that regard?
No, I think I covered it, but we can hop straight into a demo if that helps.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to see, especially, like, let's start at the beginning, let's talk requirements. You mentioned a little bit, like, maybe natural language, maybe docs, so, yeah, I'm dying to see. Let's hop right into it.
All right, let's flip to my screen. So when you have a new idea, for instance, let's say you have this legacy modernization initiative to refactor a claims processing app. You might come with just a sentence of what the old application did, or you might come with old requirements. This is an example of a business requirements document. It's pretty standard. Um, Different customers do it different ways. Your business tends to capture these general sections, including, what does the app do? What are its objectives? Who is it serving? Requirements can come in all flavors. So you might have user stories, very detailed already, or you might have just a paragraphs describing the manual flow. So in this case, I do have a couple of user stories already. So what I'll do here is I will go ahead and upload this app description of what I'd like to generate, and I'll click generate. And so at this point, like I was mentioning before, unlike high code tools, right now Composer isn't rushing to generate objects for you. You're not going to come out of this screen with thousands of objects and wondering how you're going to sift through them, understand them. We're actually building the app requirements for you. And we're transforming these specs into structured collaborative screens that you can use to align with your stakeholders, your business.
Yeah. We I'm gonna interrupt you for a second too, since I think we have a little time. We do have a question too, I think from like a general standpoint. And the question is, can it be used to develop additional application modules using existing application database and records?
Can
I know.
you leverage the existing database and records to
Yes.
help plan for new applications?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
to
the question?
develop additional application modules. So
Yes.
presumably, yeah, different parts.
Okay, so to enhance an existing application, for instance. Yes, I can get into that more once we hop into the data model, but yes, so for instance, if you have an application that already exists, but maybe you're planning a new module, new features around it, you could start with Composer, describe what you want out of it. And in your data model, instead of, having Composer generate some of these objects from scratch, you can start connecting some of these with your existing record types. So for instance, if you already had a claim record type, you could go looking for one here and connect them. And that way Composer will take what you have into account and not regenerate them for you, but it will help you generate new objects that
Mhm.
fulfill your new requirements. Does that help answer the question?
I think it does. And don't worry for those who I know we skipped straight to the data models, but we're gonna go step by step here and show you kind of how this tool works, and then we can feed that similar train of thought. We'll weave it in as we go too.
Yeah, yeah. So one last thing I'll mention is I started with a document. You could start with other types of documents. I started with a docx, but you can put in a PDF, you could put in a text file, you can just upload natural language. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business requirements document. It could be user stories. It could be a Jira export if you really like to plan in Jira and now you want to get more of a visual plan. Those are all options, great places to start. Honestly, getting words into this visual view for you to align with your business is the best way to get started here. So here in the requirements tab, I'll start from the beginning. Composer has identified key user activities based on your requirements. So there's claim intake, there's validation, manager reviews a part of this, and it also calls out key user stories or user actions here, like using AI to classify documents, using AI to extract data from documents. And this early technical mapping helps us think about how we might want to leverage all the different aspects of Appian's process automation platform as we design this application. And you can see these user stories are related to personas. So for instance, these are system related, but you might have a customer or policy holder that is meant to submit a new claim, for instance. These are all encapsulated in your personas tab, and you can use this tab to really talk to your business about understanding who the key stakeholders are, what are their key responsibilities, what are their key pain points, really understanding what they struggle with today so that you can design your application in the best way. And then we use these personas as the basis for group generation in the future. So it is important to kind of document and think about that.
Now, we're pretty familiar with, it looks pretty, just walk up friendly. Like, it looks like I can add things, I can edit things pretty easily. But, like, what if a stakeholder sees this and is like, it seems like it's missing kind of a chunk?
Yeah. So what we've seen work really well in using Composer so far for planning is you can hop directly on a call, be in the same room with your stakeholders and be updating this live. Use it as a way to facilitate conversation, and or you can send it to them for review async, where they might say, I think you're missing a couple of things. Let's hop on a call to discuss. And when you discuss things live with them, you might hop into a particular user story and you might decide to really discuss some of these requirements here, add additional notes. I won't say anything, but you might talk through specific details. You can even use AI Copilot to take notes as you're talking with your business. Maybe they mention something about wanting customer satisfaction surveys, because that's not something that exists today, but they've been thinking about it for a while. So as they're talking, you might be typing, and instead of typing in a separate notes document, you might type directly into your chat and have it add requirements for you as you go along on your call with the customer. And then while we're waiting, once you are done, this becomes a great starting point for development, right? These kind of look like user stories that you might bring over to other tools like Jira.
Yeah, how would that work with this?
Yeah. So while they are great, they're great starting points for bringing it into Jira. And while we don't have a direct Jira export or sync feature today, that is something, yes, that is something that we're looking into, as we know it is a great way to streamline the process from going from a plan to going into plan delivery. And so it's something that we're strongly considering in the next quarter or so. And for now, I would say you're going to have to leverage, good old copy and paste to get these over to Jira.
Hey, but it still seems like a great starting point, and like you said, if people feel like they really want to see Jira, that sounds like good use case, things. So give us a nudge, say, hey, I would like that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see how this requirement that I added ended up creating a couple of user stories out of it. There might be something for a customer to complete a satisfaction survey. This saves you some time from having to add them on your own, write up the notes on your own, and it becomes a great starting point for discussion with your business.
You made me think too, like, yeah, there's nothing worse than typing live, right? Because you make spelling errors, or especially with stakeholders, like you'll be typing and they'll be like, I don't like that word. I don't like how that sounds. But if boom, it's there and you read it cohesively, then they're a little less nitpicky about word choice. I feel, but
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen so far is businesses love being able to see their ideas come to life very quickly in front of them. And so leveraging AI Copilot or even the manual tools here, I mean, both, whichever one that allows you to accelerate and get to their idea as fast as possible is what truly matters.
yeah.
So let's go into the heart of our application, which is our process, right? I'll zoom in here to make it easier for you to see. But this is a great way for you to walk your business users through what the general flow of your app should or could be.
It looks
And it's
familiar too, both stakeholder side, BPM kind of stuff, and then, like
exactly,
our side, like, knowing what the design objects are.
absolutely. So you might say, the claims process starts because a policyholder um, submits a new claim, and then there's something automated to send a confirmation, for instance, that went through successfully. And then at that point, there might be a couple things that happen at the same time. We might validate policy eligibility. We might go detect duplicate claims. We might classify uh, the documents that were uploaded and extract data. And if that works successfully, you can go through a couple more key decision points that happened that were dictated in the spec. And so one key decision point here is, for instance, if the damage amount is greater than $10,000, then it requires manager review, else it doesn't. And so when you go through this, you can definitely walk through and say, yeah, some of this makes sense and some of this we don't need to do. So maybe we don't need to, I don't know, validate policy eligibility. And so you can go ahead and delete that node, and it'll kind of remap things for you. And then in coming releases, you'll be able to do the same through AI Copilot, where you might say, no, this isn't quite right. You're missing something here. And it will automatically add things to your diagram
See,
for
I
you
love
to
that.
help. Yeah,
I think so in terms of like my own development, especially making like good mock-ups for stakeholders and whatnot, like there's one thing, like some people may come and see it and be like, well, like if it's really wrong, then it may take like a long time to edit, but honestly I don't even really think that's the case, especially with what you say is coming, like having it's if you zoom out all the way, you'll see that this is actually a pretty big thing, and so like if to do that from scratch, right, would take a while, and this again is process, like whole process. So it doesn't mean
yeah,
process model. It means it means like
that's
the
right.
entire flow of things. And so
Yeah,
just
that's a great distinction, which I will help clarify. This does not become one process model in
that would be
Appian.
awful. We
Yes,
follow best practices here, okay?
yes, exactly. It would be a really long-lived process that would rely on user tasks to do certain things, right? And so the way this business-friendly workflow translates to an Appian process model object is that we use AI to help decompose this into our best practice, short-lived process models. And
Mhm.
so what you'll get is every time you see a user task here, this is essentially a user initiated process. You can think of them as buttons or actions that users take on the front end application. Those typically get their own process models, right? And everything that happens in between one user task and another will live within that one process model. So for instance, if I had to explain this, what you would get from a submit new claim process model is you would get that it starts with a start process form, and then you might get some script tasks that generate a claim ID for you. You might get a notify email node, a send email node to notify someone, and then you might get an AI skill type of smart service, a call AI skill that allows you to then classify documents and then extract data and things like that. And then you would get separate process models for review tasks or update tasks, for instance. So that's kind of how we render the logic for figuring out how many process models you'll get out of this one massive diagram.
And I think that'll become more obvious, yeah, later in the live stream, once we actually get
Mhm.
to the generate objects. But I'd love to see what our users would see now. Let's look at some of the
Yeah.
screens.
Yeah. So screens is an important part of the planning process. It tends to be really helpful for business users to be able to see words and mock-ups, obviously because humans are visual creatures. And so there's three types of screens that you can mock up using Composer. One is your friendly starting home page dashboard.
Mm.
Another is a record summary, so giving you details and record actions um, on what, for instance, a claim might look like. For instance, if you were to look at a claim, would it contain these kinds of details? This could spur a lot of conversation with the business on what they want and don't want. So, for instance, is auditing important? Um, are we missing any key contacts? Are there any key
Mm.
actions that aren't included here that people should be able to do? And all of this is in service of, sussing out the requirements to make sure that there isn't anything that you're missing before you start developing, or at
Yeah.
least minimizing that as much as possible.
Definitely. And obviously these are mock-ups, right? And so it's a good starting point. But like what if obviously each company has their own aesthetic. So is there any
Mm-hmm.
way to like kind of give that feel to it too?
Yeah, so there's this configure styling button, which I just clicked into. And let's say my company was had green branding colors. I
Okay.
would just go through and kind of make decisions here around the following styling, like button shape, uppercase, etc., making sure everything might match with what my business would want to see. This way, when they're staring at the mock-ups, it's a lot more evident
Mhm.
that it is more realistic to what they're expecting. And like I was saying, you can a lot of these are templated, so you can say, no, I don't want these alerts. I don't want the concept of tasks. And you can kind of move components in and out and edit them as you'd like as well using AI Copilot.
And bring them back when a stakeholder maybe isn't as decisive as you want.
Hmm. Exactly.
You can play with
So
it. It's great. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really, really great way. I love working with mockups just because it's so visual and it helps you really think about what requirements you're missing.
And again, different from maybe some more of the current, ways of mocking up. Like Figma is a great tool. I love it. But, this is directly it directly translates to something that they could very well see. And,
Hmm.
obviously we can configure UIs to be more specific and have a very specific feel. But again, what a great starting place to kind of
Yeah,
just like accelerate development. We're trying to save you guys time, okay?
right. So in saving time, there's two more tabs um, that we haven't spoken about yet, sort of. One is business rules. These are a lot of business rules. And what happens when you use Composer is it'll try to give you inspiration around what kinds of business rules you might have. Do you have something around calculating a risk score for a specific claim? Maybe the business says no. Our risk scores are just low, medium, high, and it's not really a score and it's based on something else. And this, like I was saying, spurs conversation. So you might end up uh, deleting some of these, or you might get inspired to say, "Oh, you're actually missing a business rule." And all of these become expression rules in the end that you can get a head start on so that you don't have to write expressions on your own.
Love that.
Yeah.
Pretty
Just a very,
straightforward. Yeah.
very straightforward tab. Great way to talk about business logic with your business.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll talk about is the data model, which we had looked at slightly earlier in this live stream. But based on the required fields and process steps, Composer intelligently generates for you a starting point for a data model. Um, If you already have a data model in mind, for instance, because you're adding a new module onto an existing application, you can adjust this accordingly to match what you currently expect and then add on the new data tables that you need. But you can see that this application for claims processing has your basic tables that you might want. So a claim has comments, a claim has a couple of reference tables. For instance, there's claim status, claim type, a claim has payments, claims have documents, documents have types, etc. So lots of great first thoughts on what the tables, relationships, and fields you might need are.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a great basis for modifying your data model with
I was gonna
your
say, yeah, it seems pretty quick to edit and transform them too. Well, I know we're gonna talk about use cases in a little bit, but one thing that comes to mind is like, let's say that you're taking kind of an existing set of applications or application, and you're trying to maybe update it, modernize, what have you. So you may already have like an ERD, a set
Mhm.
of records in mind, and so just being able to instantly pull this up and compare seems, yeah, really nice.
Yeah, it is. And you'll see on the screen that there's this pending changes banner. And this shows up because the data model tries to adapt to changes in requirements. So if you recall from our requirements tab in the beginning, I had said something about, you know, customer satisfaction surveys. So you might want to just look at and review your changes to see if this is something that you want to add to your data model. And in this case, it's recommending some things like a survey status, customer satisfaction survey. And since I think these are good changes, I might just click apply, and it will get added to your ERD accordingly. And it will get related to a claim. So in this case, one claim can have multiple customer satisfaction surveys. So it's a great way to kind of stay updated on your data model, especially as your requirements are changing.
Love that. I think we should just go for it. Full send, hit the button. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's show them what it does, right?
Yeah. So I walked through all the planning tabs. Great way to align with your business. When you click generate objects, that means you're ready to generate your foundational objects for your application. And these are the kind of standard um, objects that you would typically create on any app. So your personas turn into groups. Your process, as I was saying earlier, doesn't become one process model. It becomes many. You might read through this and say, well, I don't know, maybe I don't need some of these,
Hmm, hmm.
like review validation issues doesn't seem like a process model I would need. Um, and you can rename things as usual. You'll get a site and interfaces for the screens that you saw earlier, expression rules for the business rules that you saw earlier, and your data gets generated
Hmm,
as
hmm.
well as key record actions and views. So you could opt for adding delete
Right.
process models, for instance. But you'll see that you get all of these record types generated for you very,
Yeah.
very quickly. And so on the review screen, you'll see there's 5 groups, 9 process models, 1 site, 6 interfaces, lots of objects, lots of acceleration. So I'll just go ahead and click generate. You'll see an asynchronous banner here
Mhm.
because now you can kind of walk away, grab a cup of coffee, and then come back in a couple of minutes and check on the progress, because we don't want you to be forced to kind of wait on a screen until it's done generating, because it can take a couple of minutes. That's a lot of objects. And
Yeah.
once it's completed, your output is a complete set of scaffolded objects. This is another app that I had created prior to this, that is very similar. So you'll get all these objects generated for you for free. And when you hop into your site, you get to visualize the mock-ups that you had created have now become reality
Right.
with sample data. So you'll see your claims list. You can hop into a claim to take a look at your claim summary. You could update that claim if you wanted to. And all of these process models, at least the CRUD ones, are all connected. And so you could absolutely show a demo directly to your business right after clicking. And that was done in just a matter of minutes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, obviously the title of this live stream is like aligning to a plan, which is like a good point because there was so much ability to edit and make sure that the alignment is there right from the get-go. And so once things are generated, then yeah, you're in theory in a really good place to continue building, not start building because the objects are made, they have the basic structures and whatnot. You may need what, like
Yeah.
integrations and some other things that we have to define, but like let me take a step back though. What about regenerating? Like what, because I'm sure people are curious about like, is this a one-time thing or how does that work?
Yeah. So right now, it is very much like Big Bang generation. You could definitely go back to your application and adjust requirements, which would add new personas, add new screens, and stuff like that. And you could click generate objects again. And what would happen is this one is still generating. But what would happen is we would detect the ones that we already created for you. Actually, this was a bad idea. I should have done it on a different application.
Oops.
For instance, in this application where things were already generated for us, when you click generate objects again, what you'll see is it will kind of say that there's nothing left to generate. But if you
The
went
changes
back,
made, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, if you went back and you added new screens or you added new data tables or whatever, or if there were things that you chose not to generate before that you now want to generate again, you can absolutely go through the wizard and have it help you generate incrementally. But I will say in the future, we are looking to make a lot of investments around incremental development. And so the goal is for Composer to be able to create and easily modify parts of existing objects so that you can handle new and changing requirements much more easily than you can today.
That's cool, yeah, because like, obviously, we have a set, like 4 that I'm seeing different sets of requirements, but let's say, like, yeah, you add another one, then it'd be great to, generate and then have it all
Mhm.
connect automatically, and you have that same, like, speed and, best
Yes. Yeah.
practices. Okay, next question off the top of my head then, which, again, I'm sure they wanna know too. I infer or I don't know what word I wanna use. I mentioned integration just now, so, once it's done generating, like, what would be the next steps for our developers then?
Yeah. So I was showing the list of objects earlier, which includes all your basic ones. You'll want to kind of hop in and take a look at the process models because they are just scaffolded process models, meaning that they, besides the CRUD ones, they lay out the nodes for you, but they don't lay out variables. You have to finish configuring nodes. For instance, an AI node, you might want to I don't know, link to the AI skill. And what we
Yes.
do is we kind of lay out to-dos for you to help you think about what
Oh,
you need to do.
I like that.
So even though this script task doesn't really link to an expression rule, you know that you need to do something in particular. If the damage amount is greater than X, you need to apply a certain business rule. And this is where you start linking together your objects to finish setting up your process models. Another thing you could do, so process models are the only ones I can think of where you really need to finish configuring. Another thing you can do is kind of hop into some of your generated interfaces and customize them further if you'd
Right.
like, with any changes from the business, making them more customized to your business's desires and patterns.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely do that. And you can extend, like you were saying about integrations, for more complex objects that we didn't generate for you. Maybe you had an integration you needed to set up.
Yeah.
Maybe you had RPA that you needed to set up. So this really takes away the grunt work from setting up an initial app so that you can focus on the high value, critical other work that is unique to your application.
Yeah, and the one last thing I'll say on this is like, I think one thing that just came to mind is that obviously I think in terms of like me as a developer, but if we consider like development teams, right? Once all this is generated, there are so many different objects and yeah, to-do lists and UIs and stuff. So depending on your development team and their strengths, right, you can immediately say, all right, go do the UI. All right, go finish
Hmm.
that process model. Okay, go make the script task or like the expression rule that may connect to that script task. And yeah, you're right, it feels modular, but like in the best way possible for our developers to utilize their strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to get started with an application. And especially if you're just working through a proof of concept or you have an idea that you want to work through and demonstrate to the business very quickly, but it doesn't need to be deployed immediately. This is
Mhm.
a great way to get your ideas down and um, show a POC to a business user without putting in very much effort.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's awesome. We're just sparking so many questions now, for me at least. I don't. Again, out there, I see you guys. You're there. Ask your questions while we have Tian here, and I may not know as much as her, but I know some things. Okay. Um, my next question then is, let's talk use cases. You mentioned POCs.
Mhm.
What else? What do you see
Yeah. So
as your
Composer right
PM?
now in 25.4 is designed as an accelerator for that initial phase of development, right? So it's great at jumpstarting projects and proving out value quickly. That's why I mentioned a POC, because
Mhm.
that's how a lot of you out there are leveraging it, because it allows you to go from idea to functional app very, very quickly. I will say another one that I've seen recently is short or quick legacy transformation projects. For instance, like a modernization project that might typically take 2 to 3 months. It's a really great way for you to very quickly align with your business on what did this old app do and what does it look like on Appian. It's very straightforward how to modernize an application like that. And
Mhm.
so we can help you generate the plan and generate the app foundation to ensure that the project starts right and reduces risk and accelerates the path to production as well. So those are two great ways that you can leverage Composer today in its current
Okay.
state.
What about, I know we've kind of touched on it. I'm just going to say it again because there may be a slightly different spin to this one, but what about developers who are maintaining applications?
Mm. Yeah, that's a very great use case that we've been hearing about a lot. Um, this is a number one product request for us being able to support existing applications because we know today you might not have many new projects, but you have many new features that you need to build on existing applications. You have apps that you've been maintaining for 8 to 10 years, for instance. And while Composer is not the best today for anything but net new projects, we do have a clear plan for the long term. And so our long term vision is this full life cycle acceleration. And so we're investing in capabilities to allow you to modify existing applications. And that allows you to work on incremental development, release 2, 3 beyond, and not just net new projects. How do we help you with the user story that you're working on, with the ticket you're working on today? And there's a lot of really exciting things coming up
I was going to
that
ask,
should
what
help
what else
throughout.
is new? Yeah, what can you tell us?
Yeah. So from the planning side, we're focused on improving requirements extraction and a better co-pilot experience, as you saw, to help with real-time requirements gathering. So really accelerating that first phase. And then on the secondary phase, which is the build phase, what we're calling developer co-pilot right now, is design object co-pilots and agentic assistants. So we're looking to embed a co-pilot experience in your design objects directly to accelerate your development no matter where you're building or when you're building throughout the life cycle,
Yeah.
right? So let's say you have a user story and you got to modify an interface, but it requires you to add new logic or something like that. You should be able to just speak to AI Copilot in natural language, and it will help you um, generate the sale to update your interface. And all you have to do is you become a reviewer. So that's that's co-pilots in design objects. The other piece is around agent augmented development, agentic assistance that I was mentioning, where
Mhm.
you might express your business intent, meaning you might have a user story that says, I need to add this new field into this form because it's something brand new that my business wants. And we would have AI agents help break down this into multiple tasks. It involves adding a new field to a record type, adding that new field to the interface, I don't know, updating an expression rule to pull back that new field or something like that. And
Mhm.
so we would have that AI agent break down those tasks for you and then go execute on that task so that instead of you going to do it, you're getting an agent to do it for you, and then you become an ultimate reviewer. And this ideally would kind of revolutionize the pace at which you can develop and build new features in Appian.
I love that. All right, well, I'm gonna pause to you in there. If there's any other questions, speak now, or I won't say forever hold your peace because we're not like that. But if you have a question, yeah, go ahead and put it in there. And if we end up wrapping up before you can ask your question, no big deal. We'll get back to you. But like, again, use us while you can. Those all sound really exciting. And one thing that came to mind actually when as you talk about this augmented development, right? I love that word. I laugh as a mom, especially with my birthing stories and whatnot. But that's a whole nother thing. Um, in the past, one of the things that was an accelerant was like the patterns, right? And we still have those in our interface designer, right? But it was still like you had to click on the pattern or drag and drop it in, and then you had to go through it, maybe read some instructions and
Yeah,
find the places you need to update. And okay, technically you still have that same thing, right? This is still like making some starting point for us, and we do have to, add things later, but it definitely feels more advanced, it feels more modern, it feels good, Tian. I like it.
yeah. With the advancements around AI, honestly, we're looking to find all the ways to accelerate developers throughout. And you bring up a good concept about patterns. The patterns that we have today are more inspirational, and they
Mhm.
don't necessarily always tie back to your actual data fabric. And so we would love to get to the point where the interface designer copilot that we bring out not
Yeah.
only generates you beautiful UIs, but ties it back to your data, your process, et cetera, so that you do as little configuration as possible. And you're just, making sure that everything is looking good and works as you expect.
Hey, I love when things save me time and grief, right? Because
Right.
one of the very first things you talked about was technical debt, and I think okay, maybe as developers, technical debt is a tricky thing because you have your boss who's focused on oh well we don't want to spend too much money, or you don't want to waste your own time rebuilding things or redoing things, and so
Right.
um, love all the concepts we talked about so far. Um, but I think that's all of my questions. I don't see any questions in the chat. So I guess I'll just wrap things up. I'm going to do some announcements, but before I do that, thank you so much, Tian, for joining us. You're always a pleasure to host on these live streams. Uh, yeah, I'm going to go right into announcements then. We have some courses out for you that are AI focused. We have Choose the Right AI for the Task and Prompting for AI Agents. Okay, so make sure to go again into this channel and check them out. We're putting them in the chat too, just in case you want to go directly there right now, which I would love that. But thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.